So, yeah, our common denominator, then subtract the numerator. Bottom one is review of what we did yesterday. What do I need to do down here to figure out how to add these two fractions together? Factor the bottom piece of the lefty one. Switch that color. We're going to do this one green. So I got to factor this guy. So I'm going to come over here. I'll lock that page so y'all can actually see the whole thing. What's going to go on the top of my x-ram? Negative 10, a times c. And what goes on the bottom? Thank you. That's going to be my next question. And then I need a pair of numbers that multiplies to be negative 10 and adds to be negative 3. Negative. I was like, I agree with our 5 and our 2. They have a difference of 3. Which one's going to be negative? The 5. Because when I add, we're going to have that negative 3. Oop. We're going to put it in the box. It's going to give us our 2x squared in here, our minus 5 in here. We're going to have our minus 5x and our positive 2x. What do we get as factors when we pull pieces out? What's shared here? 2x. And what's shared here? Negative 5. Our top row, what's shared here? Just 1x. And bottom row? One, just 1. So when we rewrite this into factored form, we get x plus 1 over 2x minus 5 times x plus 1. And then we're going to go plus x plus 1 over 2x minus 5. What can we do next? Yeah, if we change my view again. If we just zoom in on this one fraction, we can simplify this guy. And since we don't have a common denominator over here that has the x plus 1 in it, let's go ahead and get rid of it. So this x plus 1 on the top cancels out and leaves us with 1. And the x plus 1 on the bottom cancels out as well. Get rid of that flower because I need that space. So what we really have here is 1 over 2x minus 5 plus x plus 1 over 2x minus 5. Do I need to do anything to get my denominators to match? Or do they already match? Do I need to do anything to get my denominators to match? Those match. I've got 2x minus 5 and 2x minus 5. So all we got to do now is add our numerators. 1 plus x plus 1. So 1 plus x plus 1. Also known as that, I don't know what that symbol is. Could it be an arrow? X plus 2 over 2x minus 5. If you did not spot this cancellation and you multiplied out to the, like the x plus 1 over x plus 1 here, Totally fine, totally valid. You would still get down to this answer with simplifying. But it does save us some work if we notice that it simplifies here. Okay. Questions on either of these two? Because today we're going to talk through subtraction. So there is another handout for subtraction over on the little table. There is also the review guide for the quiz we're going to have next week over on the table. This is our last set of notes before spring break. Next week we're going to review quiz. Okay? So the big deal with subtraction is it has to be common denominator. We have to get to that common denominator. So when we're looking at something like this, what is going to be our common denominator? What do they both have in common? You could go up to 27. That's totally fine. There's a smaller one. We're not gonna go smaller, but there is something lower than 27 that both 9 and 6 are factors of. 18. And then both of those variables come down. Z, Y. So we have to look and see, what do I need to multiply 9y to get to 18zy? 2z. You could absolutely choose to multiply this left side by 6z. You could go by the 3z to get to the 27. Whatever you spot is totally fine. Just know you're going to have to simplify at the end if you don't get to the lowest common denominator. The 6z, we're going to need to multiply by 3y to get it to be up to this 18zy. So we multiply these individual pieces. 2z times 2x gives me 4xz minus 7y times 3y, which gives me 21y squared. Turn the music down. I can hear it up here. From this general area, turn the volume down. My echolocation is pretty decent. Can I simplify that any further? Is there anything shared between all three pieces of that fraction? Nope. Since we got to our lowest common denominator here, we don't have to simplify. If we did 27 down here, which was the first one I heard, valid. It is a common denominator. You can absolutely still subtract. You would wind up with a common denominator or a common factor of, I believe, 3 that you would be able to factor out. Yeah, so you would track. Okay, so it might have been 6 that you could have removed. No, it would have been 3. Okay, so if you check for that lowest common denominator, just not a common denominator, it saves you work. It is not wrong to take whatever your first instinct is for common denominator. Again, you can just multiply the bottom of the other fraction. That's a valid strategy. It works. You will have to simplify at the end. Hopping into a slightly bigger one. This one looks very similar to what we had on the Bellwork one. We're going to factor all the pieces. The numerator here, is there anything I can simplify here? No. 2x plus 1 is just going to come down. This guy down here, we need to factor. So we're going to do our x My a value is 1, so I don't need a box. What's going at the top of my x frame? Negative 15. That's a times c. That's definitely meant to be a 5. And what goes at the bottom? Positive 2. I need a pair of numbers that multiplies to be negative 15 and adds to be positive 2. 5 and negative 3. We've had that pair a couple of times today. So our bottom fraction down here is going to be x plus 5, x minus 3. My numerator on the right is just a 7, so I'm just going to bring that down. What about this guy? Is there anything I can do to simplify this?
Yes.
What? The common factor. Yeah, there's a common factor here. 5x and minus 15, I could also pull a 5 out, and we get x minus 3. So especially when we're dealing with getting to a common denominator, double, triple check if you have different factors on both your fractions. Because if we had different factors on all the pieces, we're going to wind up with a cube somewhere, and that's going to be gross. What's up? Because we pulled that common factor of 5. I can't just cancel it out. I don't have anything with which to cancel it. But we pulled that the greatest common factor between the 5 and the 15 out in front. We undistributed it. So now we've got to figure out what our common denominator is. What are all the different pieces we have in the denominator? Yeah, we've got an x minus 3. That's definitely going to be part of it. What other parts do we have in the denominator? The 5. What else? And the x plus 5. So that's going to be my common denominator. So we're going to look at both sides and see which piece is missing from your denominator. So on the left-hand fraction, all it's missing is the 5. So we're going to multiply this guy by 5 over 5. On the right-hand one, it's missing a little bit more. It's missing that x plus 5 piece. So we're going to have to multiply by x plus 5 over x plus 5. That's going to give me all the pieces I need in my fraction. We're going to multiply all the pieces out, but I'm still going to leave things in factor 4, or in parentheses. So we have 5 times 2x, which is going to give us 10x, plus 5 times 1, which is 5, minus 7 times x is 7x, plus 7 times 5 is 35. We're subtracting this whole fraction. So we need to be really careful with this minus sign that we're wind up subtracting. Because what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to kind of distribute again. Because what we really have here is 10x plus 5 minus 7x minus 35. So what's our numerator going to be? When we simplify and combine like terms up here, what pieces are we left with on the top? 3 what? 3x, because 10x minus 7x minus 30. Could we simplify that any further? Gonna look at this guy. And is there a common piece in here I could factor out? The 3. So we could factor out just like we did that 5 at the very beginning. Just, it's a good idea to check in case we do have a factor that cancels out. Sometimes you will find new pieces that cancel out at the end. Or our numbers would cancel out. So there's sometimes little pieces that pop up. So it's a good idea to get it all the way back down to factored form to check. But these take a long time and a lot of space sometimes to do. Questions on this one? Okay. Oh yeah, this one's really gross. I'm gonna say try it if you want to. This is a difference of squares right here. I'm gonna point that out. But honestly, this would be the hardest one we would see because it's 2 variables. It's got both addition and subtraction. We're gonna get to one giant common denominator, but I don't think we're gonna see 2 variables in one like this again. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with, yeah, no. Okay, so these last 3 problems on homework 2, these are subtraction problems. These ones were addition. So they're all gonna be getting to that common denominator. You guys have 20 minutes. Do homework 9-2. Let's get that finished up. Headed into spring break, let's have no missing homework from this chapter. Okay? We have a quiz next Wednesday. Wednesday's a quiz. Quiz is Wednesday. The chapter review is out. I was trying to get it out the weekend before an assessment. So that you can have it, you can work on it. As questions, we'll work through that next week. Today's going to be the last day I have the Around the Room posted up, so if you still needed time to finish up, today's an excellent day to finish that up. Get it turned in. Easy peasy points. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I got for you today. Happy Oppression of the Irish Natives Day. And happy Friday.